I have 5 iconic weapons that I would love to see in Bayonetta 3, ranging from the most creative to the most homaging. I believe these weapons will finally make it to the big screen in Bayonetta 3. The fact that Bayonetta incorporates the mythological beings appropriated into fiction is what makes this game so lovable for me, and it is definitely my favorite aspect. Therefore, I've also included the real-world inspirations for these weapons, so without further ado, let's get started. I'm starting off real creative. We've had the ice skates, we've had Odette, and the rollerblades, Salamandra. But for Bayonetta 3, I've picked the hoverboard. I got this idea from Ruby, where Reese Chloris of Team Auburn used a hoverboard in the Vital Festival tournament, and I think Bayonetta would actually look so hot on a hoverboard. Named after the Himalayan myth Yeti, Mete would be an up-close foot weapon that would take us back to the Bayonetta 1 surfing days. However, you are only allowed to use light weapons on your hands. Being a hoverboard, this would be a great time to introduce a winter, tundra-like map to the game and to bring a hoverboard weapon. It would be a little faster than Odette and a melee weapon up close. However, one of my hopes for it is that it can create frozen waves of ice which can either then be used for leaps and for multiple mob kills. Magically, the snowboard will be able to float like the typical hoverboard, and remember, Bayonetta is a time-traveling series, so an Umbran elegance that pays homage to Marty McFly's outfit would be an adorable add-on, just like how Sasuke and Boruto dressed up as Marty and Doc in their time-traveling arc. Also, we may get to see Bayonetta reminisce her teenage years as a skater girl. Who knows? Coming in number 4, we have the semi-heavy weapon, the Battle Axe. Imagine Shiraba and Take Mikazuchi combined into one weapon. We have a heavy weapon combined with the mobility of an aerodynamic katana. I know that would be way overpowered and it would be like having Rosa in your arms, but I think seeing a giant battle axe with our beloved witch would be a beautiful and empowering sight. This would essentially be the same as Beloved's axe in the first game, but with faster combos, Thor's Stormbreaker or Maple Story's Aran. I'm just going to say it, I believe the resemblance to Thor's Stormbreaker would be epic, where you have the ability to throw it mercilessly against faraway enemies and then boomeramming them into you for some close-up melee attacks. Though it wouldn't be called Stormbreaker, Xingqian would be a fitting name for it since it's based on a Chinese deity who wielded a battle axe. Also, the name means opposing heaven, fitting for Bayonetta's past encounters with Paradiso. Now, what I really miss is the first-person shooter mode that you could do in Bayonetta 1. This feature was then transformed into an omnidirectional attack in the second installment, and I think this is just because of a change of director. However, there are rumors of Bayonetta 3 being directed by Kamiya, so this first-person shooter Netta could make its way back. In saying this, number 3 would be the sniper rifle. Just like Kafka, it would be a long-range weapon, but can be a deadly one-hit killer if you look down the sight. An interesting name for this I came up with would be Simuna, or the White Death. Why? It would be named after our real-world Mr. Simo Hauha, a Finnish sniper in World War II who reportedly killed over 500 enemies in the Winter War. He was then nicknamed the White Death by the Red Army at the time. This actually reminds me of Minato being named the Yellow Flash during the Third Great Shinobi War, and maybe Mr. Hauha was an inspiration of this. Anyway, this sniper would be a unique addition that brings back those nostalgic memories of that Bayonetta 1 tutorial in the prologue scene. Now, if this does really happen, we can finally, canonically, 360 quickscope in Bayonetta 3. I've always wondered something ever since I saw that Queen Witch Bayonetta or the Halloween Bayonetta outfit. Will they ever pay homage to the typical magical witch in this game? Coming in number 2, a magic one that pays homage to witches, pop culture, and magical mythology. What I'm doing is similar to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they showcase the original comic book designs into the films, either adapting it into a modernized version with the intent of paying homage, or just playfully bringing it back for a brief moment. Magic ones have been in pop culture for a very long time, and have painted the image of a typical witch in animation and vintage films. But in Bayonetta 3, could they finally pay homage to the typical pop culture witch? I wouldn't count on it on being an offensive weapon more than a support, which would give a unique touch to the weapon sets of the Bayonetta franchise. It would be like Lisa's magic book in Genshin Impact. Stuns, freezes, poisons, and small summons, and even healing are the few I could name. You would be able to choose which status you could inflict by pressing certain button combinations and then switching to an offensive weapon. I would be really happy and chuckle a little if they had a really small, witty conversation that Bayonetta was cringing at the thought of using a magic wand. even though it is a useful weapon. The last one has already been said frequently in this video, but I think it's time to finally showcase the weapon I was thinking of when I first bought the game in store at my local EB Games, the bayonet. Of course, we know according to Bloody Fate, she was given the name by Radahn.
Her name is Bayonetta.
That's the name you gave her, Rodan. But as long as she's working her ass off, she might as well make some money.
If I needed a biographer, you wouldn't be my first choice.
Even though this is just a theory in the game's universe, we've theorized that Radahn pre-named her Bayonetta with the intent of making her into a weapon when he found her. Though her strength showed that she is not to be meddled with, Radahn acknowledged her name as a warrior. This would be so similar to how Kenshin was renamed by his teacher after the Bloody Massacre. Believing Shinta was not a name worthy of a warrior, he was given the name Kenshin. Anyways, imagine Radahn giving this rifle to Bayonetta and just casually saying that gun's name is Bayonetta, which would then confirm our theory that he intended for her to be sealed into the weapon in the first place. Regardless, Bayonetta would then be able to use the weapon just like how the Radahn rings are named after Radahn himself. This weapon is similar to the sniper rifle, but it could also be used like a melee weapon like Shiraba, but maybe even faster. Just imagine Shiraba being able to hit long range. I think that would be pretty overpowered and something emotional to slay the last boss with. Just some trivia for you: in the Bayonetta 3 anime opening, the first concept for this scene was to be Bayonetta in her Infernal Bond wielding a bayonet. Of course, they would make it look way more extravagant in the game, but I thought for me it was a little bit too bland for my anime opening. I remember I spent a day redrawing this into the kimono Shiraba design, but even so, I think Miss Mari Shimazaki would do an exceptional job at drawing Bayonetta wielding a bayonet. Alright guys, please let me know in the comment section which weapon you'd love to see in Bayonetta 3. And also remember to subscribe, like this video, and turn on post notifications so you do not miss a single episode of our returning Bayonetta 3 theories series. I'm Rakun, and happy theorizing.